Hello. So today I'm going to talk about cottage food laws and kind of just explain what they are and what they mean for you as a home baker if you want to start selling your baked goods. So basically, cottage food laws are the laws that regulate home bakeries. Now, they vary greatly from state to state and even county to county. So California, most of their counties are different cottage food laws. So that's something that you will have to kind of do your own research on. And I'm going to put links in the description for a couple good sites that can help you get started on your state's cottage laws. But basically, most states you can only, if you're baking under the cottage laws, you can only sell foods that don't require refrigeration. So that has caused some confusion in the macaron world because macarons really should be refrigerated. Okay, but most of them don't have to be refrigerated. So that is where it gets tricky, especially if your food department hasn't heard of macarons and then they see on your label or whatever, they see that they are refrigerated. But for most states, it's non-perishable items, things that don't have to be refrigerated. So that could be bread, cookies, brownies, pretty much any baked good, granola, popcorn, that kind of stuff that doesn't have to be refrigerated. That kind of stuff is allowed in most states. It will depend on your state and your county, but some laws won't allow you to use butter or buttercream, or even chocolate. So you really just have to make sure that you're checking your state's laws. But for the most part, non-perishable baked goods. Unless you're Wyoming, then you can pretty much do whatever you want. Look up Wyoming's cottage laws and what it took to get them there. And if your cottage laws are not to your liking, do something about it. Like, look up Wyoming, look up a couple different states that have really worked. I think Utah, there's a couple more that the people in the community have worked really hard to get their cottage laws where they want them to be. So if you're in a state that has a cottage law that's just so restrictive to your home bakery, maybe get together a group of other home bakers and do something about it. If you're learning something from this video and you want to see more like it, hit the subscribe button and the little bell next to it, and you'll be notified whenever I come out with a new video. Okay, so that's what you can sell. And once again, I'll link below where you can have a list of that. So there's some other laws that vary state by state, but some you can't have animals, some you can't have animals in the kitchen. Most of them you can't ship. If you're baking under cottage laws, most cottage laws say you can't ship. And then there's others that you can't do wholesale, which is selling to another store and then they sell them for you. Or you can't do farmers markets, you can't do pop-ups, and then others, that's all allowed. In Ohio, you're allowed to do wholesale, you're allowed to do farmers markets, pop-ups, and you're allowed to do buttercreams. But once again, that varies state to state, so look up your own state's cottage laws. Okay, and now the important part is just because you don't have to get a license and register your business under the cottage laws does not mean that your state doesn't have cottage laws. It just means that you have to work and bake under the cottage laws. You just don't have to fill out the paperwork. So if you're one of those states, that doesn't mean that it's a free-for-all and you can sell whatever you want and sell it however you want. That just means that you need to go on your state site, make sure you're doing everything they say, especially if you're going to be selling wholesale or at a farmer's market. There are health inspectors there that are going and looking and checking over your stuff. So make sure you get all of your labeling done. So most likely you'll need some sort of label and you'll have to put all of the ingredients on your label. And that is a question I get a lot is, do I have to put the ingredients of the ingredients on the label? So say you're doing chocolate chips, you need to put on your label chocolate chips, milk chocolate chips, and then list all of the ingredients in the chocolate chips. So most states, that is how it is. Check your laws, but you will need to put everything you put in your baked good on there and then everything that is in there as well. So if someone has an allergy or something, they can look at your label and see every single ingredient that is in there. That is so important. Okay, make sure you're listing the ingredients and the sub-ingredients. All right, do you want me to do a video on labeling? And yeah, maybe I can do a video on labeling and kind of walk you through what your label should look like and maybe a label template. Let me know in the comments if you want to see a labeling video. Now, like I was saying before, some of the stuff like macarons don't require refrigeration, but they just should be refrigerated. So that is something where I think a lot of people get into trouble with their health department is they say these macarons macarons have to be refrigerated. And then the health department says, well, then you can't sell them as a home baker. But most of them don't technically need to be refrigerated. So they are able to be sold. They just can't put on the label that they have to be refrigerated. So it's, once again, check with your health department and everything. But the best option there would be to put on the label, for best results, keep refrigerated. And you most likely won't be able to put on there, you have to keep refrigerated or keep refrigerated. So maybe something like best results or something like that. Okay, and now you'll go through and you'll look at your list on your state's website and you'll see what's listed there that you're allowed to sell. Just because something that you want to make is not listed on there doesn't mean you can't make it. So macarons aren't very popular, so they're not going to be listed on there, but they're categorized under one of those things. So if it says cookies, cupcakes, whatever, you're making a cookie and icing from a cupcake combined. So macarons are usually allowed. Check your state's laws. But so just because it's not written specifically on there doesn't mean it's not allowed. And these are things that I would not ask too many questions if I were you for the cottage laws, if you don't have to. I'm not saying lie, don't lie, but don't give more details than you have to give about this. You're making a cookie, buttercream, cookie, putting them together. Is that okay? So if your state allows cupcakes with buttercream and cookies, that should be allowed in your state, okay? I think some people start to ask too much and then when they're asked how they're prepared and what goes into making a macaron, they tell them about the refrigeration and that stuff and how they're supposed to be refrigerated, and that usually sounds like something that should not be under cottage food law. So if it doesn't have to be refrigerated, that's a very important detail when you're baking as a cottage food baker. This quote, for some reason, comes to mind when I am talking about cottage food laws. So there's an episode of West Wing where CJ Craig, the press secretary, is getting interviewed by the White House counsel, Oliver Babish. He says, CJ, do you know what time it is? And CJ says, it's 5 past noon. And then Oliver Babish says, I need you to get out of the habit of doing that. And she says, doing what? And he says, answering more than was asked. Do you know what time it is? And CJ says, yes. Okay, so I'm not saying lie, but don't give more information than you need to give when you're trying to start this up. Because they have to give you answers based on the rules and laws. There's no real gray areas with this stuff. So don't really put them in that situation if you don't have to. So your macarons do not need to be refrigerated if you're using the right fillings. Okay? That's all. But the thing you really want to make sure you get right is labeling, because the customers need to know what's in their products, especially if they have some sort of allergy. And things like macarons, which people think are gluten-free because they're made with almond flour, if you're putting cake or Oreos or something in the shell that has gluten in it, you've got to make sure you put that on the label and tell people, because they're not expecting that. So don't mess up the labeling. Do you want me to do a video on how to label and some ideas for labeling? Because it is hard to fit it on a tiny macaron. Each macaron that you sell has to have a label on it. So if you sell individuals, each individual macaron has to have a label on it in most states. And the label will usually it'll have your business name, your address, sometimes some sort of number, all of the ingredients, the weight of the package, and it all depends on your state, but basically that's what you'll need on each one. But if you put them in a box together and you have 5 macarons in one box, you will have to put all of the ingredients for each macaron on the box, but you can just print out one big label and stick it on the back of the box. That's what I used to do. Print different labels for singles or boxes. Now, if you go through your cottage law website, you're looking at all that stuff and you see that you can't do it, you got dogs or something like that where you're not allowed to sell out of your home, there are still options. You can rent, especially if you want to do this and turn it into a storefront down the line. Don't give up. There are options. You could rent a commercial kitchen. A lot of cities are starting up like incubator kitchens where there are a bunch of different little sections inside a commercial kitchen where you can rent it and everything is stocked, ready to go for you. You just bring in your ingredients and stuff. Or you could maybe you got a friend who owns a coffee shop, or a friend who knows a friend who has a coffee shop or a restaurant or something where they close at night or they close during the day sometime, where you can rent their space. It just might be a little bit of a burden at first for you, but eventually you'll be able to grow. And when you're baking in a commercial kitchen, that opens doors for more things, like maybe selling wholesale or having more space to bake in a bigger oven, or it seems like it would be a pain, but it might actually pay off in the long run. Then you can kind of produce more and get on the road to opening up your storefront, if that's the route you want to go. So don't give up if you can't sell at your house. There's other options. And if you're ready to start your home bakery and you need some help, I have a course called the Home Bakery Blueprint, where you can work with me to start or grow your home bakery business. So join the email list below if you want to be notified when spots open up for that, or join the Facebook group, and I always post in there whenever I have spots open. And join that if you're having trouble making macarons and you need help. Just post your pictures and we'll all help you make better macarons. Okay, also, I almost forgot. I have a new macaron recipe subscription. So I'll put the link below. I'll mark it macaron recipe subscription, and I'll put a link below where you can join and you get one recipe a month. One new macaron recipe a month. Okay, I still am going to make some YouTube videos with macaron recipes, but this is just extra for people that really need a new recipe every month, because I know you're out there. So join that below and you'll get one new recipe a month. Now, do you have any more questions about Cottage Laws? I know this was a very quick intro to the Cottage Laws, so I'll do another one answering your questions. Just ask your questions below what other things you want to know about Cottage Laws and starting to sell. If you'd like, you can follow me on Facebook and Instagram. I'll put those links in the description. Okay, check out these other macaron videos. Okay, love you, bye.